to the DSW podcast with James Ledger.
So, welcome back to the Disability Sport Wales podcast with me, your host, James Ledger. At Disability Sport Wales, we are celebrating Disability History Month from November the 16th to December the 16th. This episode, we're going to be talking about two incredibly fast-growing sports in Wales. I'm really happy to be joined by two Welsh internationals who have just played in the World Cups, and I'm really excited to hear all about their journey, all about their careers thus far, and where they see the sports growing. And them two sports are Wheelchair Rugby League and Physical Disability Rugby League as well. So my two guests today are Chris Young and Stu Williams. How are you both doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Thank you so much for joining us both. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start with you, Stu. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How do you get involved in rugby league? Where are you from? Have you always been sporty?
Yeah, okay. So, as you know, my name's Stuart Williams. I'm the current captain of Wales Wheelchair Rugby League. I've always been quite sporty. I grew up playing a lot of basketball and got into running rugby at secondary school, and then just going into running rugby when I was at school, and then when I was doing a wheelchair challenge where I was going from John O'Groats to Land's End, self-propelling myself in a chair. And prior to that, I was getting involved with other disability sports and getting to realise what else was out there. Something I had been involved in as a sports coach in the past was disability sports. And I got introduced to Wheelchair Rugby League, and I was just absolutely hooked after that.
That's fantastic. And Chris, how about yourself?
So luckily I'm from Leeds. So the first ever PDRL two teams, the fixture was between Leeds Rhinos and Warrington Wolves. So that was only about 5 years ago. So to see how much it's grown in the last 5 years is just ridiculous. Probably more than anyone imagined. So yeah, going from that first training session in Leeds, and I had to be up. I played mainstream rugby union like quite a lot of my life. So I had to be convinced by my friend who works for the RFL, and he said, "Oh, it's just a great opportunity. Just go give it a try." So I went, and I'm so glad I did. Like one of my teammates down at Leeds, he's still one of my teammates. He the first day, he put this big shot on me, and I thought, all right, and he's up for this then. So ever since that, we've both been trying to one up each other for the last 5 years. So yeah, that's how it all started for me. And then Craig Fisher gave me a call about representing Wales, and I absolutely snapped his hand off because I'm eligible through heritage. So my grandparents moved up from like the Rhondda area, and then the Rhondda Valleys, and then moved up to Leeds. My granddad was a miner, so
that's great. Proper valleys, Rhondda. I like it.
Yeah.
Stuart, I've read a bit about you, and you're a bit of a winger, attacker, try scorer, captain. Tell us how it is to captain Wales, and tell us a little bit about Wheelchair Rugby League. Let's talk about the game itself. How is it adapted?
Basically about Wheelchair Rugby League, it is essentially stripped back to it is just rugby league in a wheelchair. There is a few changes, like obviously if a knock-on happens, we don't start with a restart of a scrum because there's only 5 on the pitch, and also it'd just be too messy to do it. And as the scrum's not really fully like engaged or anything, there's no real need for it. So we just do a simple tap restart on the control restart situation. Tackles happen simply by ripping the tag. You'll see that there's 2 tags on either shoulder. Players either try and rip one of them off, or if they happen to hit somebody hard enough and knock them over, that's classified as a tackle as well. To replay the ball, like in the running game, you have to, obviously in the running game, you have to stand back up and be stationary and like on 2 feet to then play the ball back. Well, we have to make sure that our tags are securely back on, and then we can play the ball. And depending on your disability, you can play the ball off the floor, or you have to if you can reach the floor. If you can't, because of say a spinal column injury or a reach condition, you play it off the wheel, and then you pass it backwards.
That's great. And talk a little bit about the conversion, because the BBC have been fantastic this year in kind of showcasing the sport, and it was amazing to watch. So talk a little bit about how a conversion's done in Wheelchair Rugby League.
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me this question when they say, "Well, how do you do a conversion?" You talk about how you do a try, and some people still trying to get their head around how a try actually happens. But obviously, a try is just essentially when somebody grounds the ball over the try area. But obviously, if you can't reach the ground, you have to tap your wheel. You have to be over the try area with one of your wheels, I believe, and then it's just a simple tap on the side of it. With a conversion, we use what would be a traditional rugby kicking tee, but mounted on like a pole that can be slightly adjustable sometimes. Depends on the preference and depends how it's been made. They're customized, made, if you like. There's no sort of manufacturer that makes these as such. It's usually made by individual teams and their staff. All players, they make their own. And basically, you just have it on an adjustable on most of them, and then it's just a simple closed fist and a punt straight over, just like you would in a straight line with a kick. There's no real difference. The only action is with the arm instead.
That's awesome. And there was some incredible conversions being done from all sides of the pitch, wasn't it? Some great shots. It was. Awesome.
I'd probably say the success rate is probably higher actually in the wheelchair game for the kicking from the sideline is probably higher than what it is in the running game. Obviously, we don't have the wind and the rain to contend with, but obviously, there is a massive difference from kicking from a fist, than getting a full leg behind it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the stats on that. Compare it to Dan Bigger, maybe even Dan Carter, people like that, to see how that compares. That'd be interesting.
Massively.
Chris, and like yourself, BBC were fantastic I watched the number of games you guys played in on BBC iPlayer, which was great. Can you tell us a little bit about Physical Disability Rugby League and how them rules are kind of adapted, and because it's quite similar but quite different at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're similar. We don't have scrums. Oddly, like rugby league, it sort of got rid of the scrum for quite a while anyway during COVID, didn't it? So, so we've never had scrum. So if it's a knock on, so in our sport, there's 3 different categories. So you have your A, B, and C category, and that depends on this how many limbs are affected. Like your disability affects how many limbs. So A is sort of like one or half a limb, and then B might be one entire limb or 2 halves of a limb, and then C might be more. It affects the movement of all of your limbs, so such as cerebral palsy or something like that. So because of that, and because like to remain inclusive, we don't play. So if it's a knock on, it's just a tackle. So it's 6 tackles still, and you're only allowed to kick on the 5th. So on the last tackle. So that in terms of a winger, where I've played for most of my PDRL, it makes it a lot easier. So you don't have to drop back, and then protect. You don't have to be 5 meters, giving yourself that extra 5 meters in case you've got a quick winger opposite you. So that makes it a bit easier. In terms of the expansion of it, when it first started in the Super League clubs, we had, or some clubs had, we didn't. Some clubs had AB players, so able-bodied players, and they were there to sort of facilitate the game. It's similar to that. I think that works similar with mixed ability rugby union. But it just goes to show like the amount of talented people that have come in and played. it's quickly got scratched. There's no AB players really anymore. There's a couple in some clubs that are just starting out who might need them to make up the numbers, but because we're wanting to expand it, we allow that. You want to allow that to happen. So, in terms of international, I've got friends who've watched me from my very first game to playing for Wales just recently, and they're saying that the difference between it's just a massive learning curve, isn't it? All of it is just a massive learning curve. In terms of rules, they're the two main rules: the knock-on rule and the last five. Everything other than that, it's very much the same. Oh, the red shorts as well. Red short, I forgot about them.
I was going to say about the shorts. Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah.
So you're allowed a maximum of, I think, 3 on at once. If the C player, it gets very complicated. I'm not going to go into the whole scoring system, but you're allowed a maximum of 3, but you don't have to have any on any time either. And they're touch rugby, so they might have suffered with a brain injury, so it'd be too dangerous for them to play contact rugby. So they're just touch. So we've got Isaac and Connor in our team and Timer as well. So in the Wales squad, they were all red shorted players. So yeah.
So red shorted players are usually people who've got more severe injuries, shall we say, or conditions.
Potential. I imagine it could be life-threatening injuries. Playing contact rugby could be for them.
And what happens if somebody accidentally tackles somebody with red shorts?
Well, that happened quite a bit.
Maybe I've set this up for something I don't know.
Yeah. So Spriggsy, one of our lads, he got one of Kiwi red shorts straight away, like within the first 10 seconds. So he got sin bin for that.
Okay.
So yeah, so sin bins, but it's understandable. It's we're playing a contact sport. Ideally, it's like when it happened quite a few times. England did it to us. We did it to Australia, New Zealand. New Zealand did it to us. Isaac actually broke his rib getting tackled, and he's the red shorts player. So,
oh god. So, but you see, it does happen because that happened to me in the game with England. You can only take, if you're tackling somebody, you can only take one tag. You can't take both tags off the shoulder.
Yeah, I've seen that.
If a second player comes in and takes it at the exact same time, that's legal. But you as one player can't do it. Well, somehow my brain just completely went and switched off, and I went in and tackled. I think it was Nathan Collins from England, and I literally went onto both shoulders. And for some reason, my brain just went, "Take them," and I went, "Boom!" Pulled both of them off, and I went, "Oh." And I realised straight away that I'd done something wrong. And I was just like, no, please don't notice this, ref. I might get away with it. Unfortunately, I didn't. And, there was a penalty against us. Luckily, I didn't get sin binned.
Surprised to see the England-Wales games getting quite tasty. I'm not surprised. Yeah. That's great. Chris, you mentioned a little bit there, like you've been involved for a long time now in physical disability rugby. How have you seen it change over the years?
Immensely. Like, as much as you don't want to big up an Australian, you've got to say thanks to Adam Mills. He's just brought it on. He's brought it on so much in terms of promoting it on his show, The Last Leg, and all that stuff on his social media platforms. So he's been massive in terms of down at Leeds. I can't speak for every club because I'm not there, but in terms of at Leeds, we're almost to the point where it will be a selection process, and we might even field an A and a B side. With that, we've got that many players that are just turning up.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I spoke to Morgan, Ben Lewis, captain and vice captain of Wales. I spoke to them, and the hope is that we will have a South Wales side, a PDRL side that will compete, hopefully, touch wood, in Super League. Wow. Maybe not this year, but maybe in a couple of years.
It's come such a long way in a very short space of time. Yeah. It's amazing to see. And I guess the same question for you, Stuart. You've been involved in quite a while now. Like, how have you seen it kind of grow and develop over the years?
Well, huge. I mean, the one thing, obviously, definitely from what I've seen with the PDRL is the acceleration has happened a lot, like you say, thanks to the help of Adam Hills, who's been playing, and obviously that's really helped accelerate the game. The game has really developed from the wheelchair perspective in the fact that we've started to have more television. One of the things that was great when they brought in the idea, when they brought in the Rugby League World Cup, and they were saying about that everything's going to be televised. It sort of was, the BBC were obviously like, well, we need to start televising this. So they started doing iPlayer and things like that. And obviously people started seeing it and were like, okay, this is interesting. But obviously with the television that we had and the exposure we had at this World Cup, it was astronomical. Like the amount of things that I've seen now, it's been a steady progression, I should say. Like the sport has been, since I've been around, and I think I worked it out that I've been involved now for 9 years or so. The game has developed and it's improved and it's getting there. And there has been inclusions of Super League clubs actually starting to actually go, right, we need a wheelchair setup now. This is not, we can't just have our men's and women's, or our men's, women's and PDRL, or maybe not even PDRL, but they've gone, right, we need to have a wheelchair setup. And that's why you've got, Wigan Warriors now set one up, and it's developing like that. And I can see that happening more. I could actually see, well, Warrington Wolves have got one, they, and so on. And thanks to this World Cup, I think that's going to be the next step. Is they're going to be the Super League clubs are going to actually have it and be proper, just all Super League, which is not necessarily a great thing in some ways, because you've had the people around for a long time, like North Wales Crusaders, who I've played for, who are a lower league club in the running game. So to not have us around again would, I don't feel would be right. But this is where it's accelerating, and hopefully there'll be more of this TV exposure going on. And I'm hopeful that the same with the PDRL, more competitions will be highlighted, because you're all at one venue. And how does the PDRL work? From your competitions, are you all together?
In league competition, it's sort of like a festival format. You play shorter games, you play 2 games in the day, and then each club hosts their own festival, and then you have the grand final.
Yeah, so that's what Wheelchair Rugby League used to be like. Back when I very first started, one team would host another 2 teams, and you'd have a round robin competition, and then so on and so forth. And now it's literally gone to home and away, which is absolutely fantastic, and things. But obviously, from exposure wise, it'd be great to see this continue on, and I think that's where it'll probably end up heading going forward.
And that's exciting, very exciting.
Oh yeah, massively.
Stu, I'm gonna ask you a question. Competing for your country is it's the pinnacle of sport, isn't it? It's what everyone wants to do when they grow up as a child, if you're involved in sport. And just wanted to ask, wearing the dragon on your chest, hearing the national anthem, what does that mean to you?
Well, I don't know if you saw our very first match against France. I kind of got taken a little bit away by the whole emotion, and I was visibly crying, and it was sheer euphoria, the whole experience, the whole realization that it was there, and sitting in front of all them people, ready to go to battle, and people trying and joining in and harmonizing with the national anthem, and me there alongside all my teammates. It was just an unreal motion. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best at the national anthem. I try my hardest, and I hopefully got across with the passion that I could. And like I say, there is no real word or few words that could describe the whole experience, and the momentum of my life. Like I said, I think I said to one of the journalists when they asked us in the press conference, they said, what does it mean to you? And I said, it's probably the biggest thing in my life. And I said, I'm not married yet and I haven't got kids. And even when they come around, it'll still probably be the biggest thing in my life. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But, but it definitely can tell you right now, it meant absolutely everything to me to be there, captaining the side, singing the national anthem in front of all them people at national TV and singing alongside my teammates.
Goosebumps too. That's amazing. And Chris, same question to you.
Well, being heritage, first things first, I will say it's a hard national anthem to learn when you don't speak Welsh. So, but once you get I'm much better at Delilah, from Tom Jones. I'm much better at that, I promise. But yeah,
aren't we all?
Yeah. I'll be honest. Some of the people I met, Morgan is quite a big one, and Ben. These are some of the most inspiring people I've ever had the pleasure to play rugby with, and I've known them 6 months. I came quite late to camp, so I've known them that long, and they have been. They're just so inspiring. I was proud. Was proud to be on the field with them, as well as, my gran was there watching the first game, but she's the Welsh heritage. That was a really proud moment. My wife was there. It was really good, and it was the most remarkable thing I've ever done. The first game, I think I got caught up in the moment, and I didn't play probably my best rugby until we played in the second, third, fourth games. So yeah, I absolutely was overtaken by how immense it was. We had a crowd of I think it was around 1,500 on that first game, and half the crowd are singing the national anthem alongside you, and you're like, wow, this is exceptional. This is, but yeah, I'm not the best singer at it, so I'm the same as you. I'm terrible, but yeah, I think
it's all about the passion in it.
Yeah. Oh, then they had loads of passionate lads that were good at it. Stuart was particularly.
I think it kind of sums up the Welsh philosophy of sport, and that kind of that passion. You kind of seen that at the World Cup now, and the red wall, and putting our kind of stamp on the world of being the nation full of fire and passion, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we came third, and we fully believe that in 3 years' time, if there is another PDRL World Cup, we will absolutely be well within our rights to win that. We fully believe that we can do that.
Absolutely, no doubt.
The gap to England's not that big.
Exactly.
I think you're completely right. To be honest, I think you had a great comeback game against the Kiwis, and you know what? Like you say, the gap isn't that big. I went out on record and said, look, the future organisers of this event, France, if you don't have the wheelchair, and you certainly don't have the PDRL invested into the actual World Cup competition. I'm not talking about the festival cups. I mean, and that's no disrespect to that, but I think what you guys have shown in the PDRL is that it can be just as competitive, just as intense, and should be on the same wavelength, on the same level. And and any future organisers, that should be their main goal is going forward, is to always keep on improving and then keep pushing that forward, that momentum of right, who else can we, what other sport or variations or versions of the sport, whatever it may be, can we include this year? You know, and that's what it needs to be going forward.
Absolutely, and that ties into my last question. And yes, Stu, again, where do you see Wheelchair Rugby League in 5-10 years time? Where do you see it progressing to?
Yeah, well, I like to think that in 5 years time, at least, there's a level of semi-professionalism in the sport for players. One of the biggest things is that for ourselves in Wales is that we need that people being able to train more and have more regular training for themselves and things. Like one of the biggest differences is France, as I understand it, do have I think 2 full-time players who are basically constantly training and things, and some of their clubs also pay them for their time as well. And that's the biggest thing. That's going to help us close the gap. And the same with England. But I think in 5 years' time, I would be shocked if it isn't some sort of level of semi-professionalism and more TV exposure. And then from a 10 years point of view, full-time professionals and actual, proper exposure on a weekly basis with like the likes of, the BBC or Sky Sport or whoever, taking it on Channel 4 maybe. They've already got the TV rights for running rugby, so.
Amazing. And for you, Chris?
Yeah, PDRL, we absolutely I believe every Super League team will have a team in 5 years, probably sooner.
Yeah.
I then think we should also be at home and away, like you play. I'm not a lover of the festival format. Sometimes it might take you 10 minutes to get into a game and it could be halfway done by then, and it's tough. So, the home and away, then potentially a first league and a second league. And like you say, like us in Leeds, I know that Warrington are doing really well and they've fielded A side, B side as well. It takes more clubs to do that, and then all of a sudden you'll get a first league and then a reserve league. And I think at the moment we don't adhere to the same rules as the international. So in terms of you have to field X amount of Bs in X amount of Cs and X amount of As. But to coincide with it, eventually we're going to have to do that. It's just going to have to be the way. But yeah, it's exciting. And in 10 years' time, I definitely won't be playing. I'll be far too old then, and I'll be hopefully helping coaching or something like that.
Never say never, lad. Never say never.
Yeah. 41 might be a bit old.
Never.
No. Just put some red shorts on, you'll be fine then.
Yeah.
It's the knees that are struggling, not.
Well, all right. Well, then come do wheelchair.
Yeah.
I go around in circles, me, mate.
Hey, well, no, there's a guy who played for Halifax for many years, and that Andy Acco, and he used to just have a prosthetic.
Really?
For pushing himself, yeah. And then there's also Sega. I can't remember his first name, from Hull. And he doesn't have he just has his short limb there from his on his humerus, and he actually has a slight adaptation where he can actually take the foot plate off and he can just basically run and stuff like that, essentially. So there's always a ways and a means.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this. This is the beauty of these variants, is that they give people the opportunity to be in the sport without really feeling like there's anything majorly different, because there isn't. Like it literally is the game. It's just in a slightly alternate or parallel way, I feel like.
Yeah.
So rugby never stops, eh?
No, it doesn't.
No, Stuart, you summed it up perfectly, and I just want to thank you both for kind of sharing your passions for PDRL and Wheelchair Rugby League as well. And it's amazing to see you both doing so well, and it's exciting to see how far it's come in a short space of time and where it's going to go. I'm really excited to kind of see where it goes and see where it leads. But thank you so much both for joining me on the show, and everyone at Disability Sport Wales is excited to see where it goes, and I wish you all the luck for the future. And thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Make sure you get involved, everyone.
Yeah,
exactly that. Thanks, everyone. And thanks to all the listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And I'll see you on the next Disability Sport Wales podcast.
You're listening to the DSW podcast with James Ledger.